Next speaker is Jessica Cox from New South Wales. Jessica's fellowship was in 2016 and its title was to research innovative parent-family inclusion and partnership approaches in child welfare. And she travelled to the US, Canada, Norway and the UK. Jessica.
Thank you very much, David. As David said, my Churchill Fellowship was all about supporting parents and family with kids in the child protection system to keep kids safe at home, in family and in community. And I explored parent and family peer advocacy and support, among other initiatives. But why should we be concerned about parents and families who have had their kids taken away by child protection authorities? After all, these children have been abused and neglected by their families. Isn't it right, I'm often asked, to keep them away from their children? The reasons we need to help and support these families are quite simple. Firstly, it is misleading to say that parents with children in care are very dangerous to their children. This is true on rare occasions, but it is quite rare. The determinants of child removal in Australia are social. They are things like trauma, poverty and homelessness. While parental behaviours play a role, they are rarely the full story. Secondly, and most importantly, children need their families. They grieve their loss, they yearn for them, and they blame themselves. When they stay connected to them and go home whenever possible, kids do better and society will reap the benefits for generations to come. So let's talk about parent advocacy. The numbers of children living away from their families in Australia are high and growing. We have around 45,000 children in care in Australia and we are spending around 60% of our child protection funding on keeping them there. Less than 10% of child protection expenditure in Australia is spent on prevention and reunification. And the driver of these high numbers of kids in care is not new entries, so it's not the children coming into the system for the first time. The driver is how long children stay. The key reason for these long stays is because we have such low reunification rates. Our rates are around 25%, and rates for Aboriginal children and very young children are even lower. Peer advocacy and support drives reunification and shorter stays in care. My Churchill Fellowship took me to New York City, where peer advocacy is integrated throughout the child protection system. They have about 8,000 children in care, which is around half the number of New South Wales. New South Wales has a lower population than New York City. And the reunification rate in New York is around 65%. So we need to urgently fund and trial peer advocacy in Australia, and the Commonwealth is ideally placed to work with the states on this and start to see the savings accrue. And the savings will accrue. Unlike long-term investments in early intervention, which may take years to see a return, the cost savings of an increase in reunification would be very quickly seen, I'd suggest within 3 to 5 years. But what is peer advocacy and how does it help? Simply put, peer advocates are parents and family members who have lived through child protection interventions and use this experience to help others. They help everyone in the system do better child protection work. Peer advocates are credible messengers for both caseworkers and parents, and they help them to build child-focused relationships and work towards child safety. Peer advocates are also living proof that reunification and better outcomes are actually possible. Because reunification is quite rare in Australia, families, caseworkers and whole systems can be really pessimistic about change. And by their very presence, peer advocates challenge this and introduce hope into what can be a very hopeless feeling system. Green shoots of peer support and advocacy are emerging in Australia, but they urgently need reliable funding and to move to scale. The models that work are there, we just need to put them into practice. Children in Australia urgently need this change. Thank you.